Welcome to CardsChat, the friendliest poker podcast in town from the world's #1 poker community. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Robbie Straczynski. Thank you so much for joining us on episode number 121 of CardsChat, the friendliest poker podcast in town. Today's guest is someone whose name you might not recognize, but whose primary contribution to the poker world is certainly widely known. Jon Friedberg is a longtime poker player with over $1 million in career tournament earnings. Plus, he's also a World Series of Poker bracelet winner. But his biggest claim to fame is that he's founded PokerAtlas, the software behind cash game traffic and tournament information at poker rooms throughout North America. On today's show, we'll learn all about his career in poker and get to know him a little better. Jon, welcome to the CardsChat Podcast.
Thanks, Robbie. Happy to be here and appreciate you having me on as a guest.
Cool. And the feeling's mutual. I appreciate you agreeing to be on as a guest. And as I told you just before we started, in doing the research and plus combing, my files, my memory files for, your name, what you've done, you haven't done much media. So we're that much more appreciative that you're kind enough to give us your time and share your personal poker story and the story of the PokerAtlas company. It's very cool.
Great.
Cool. So let's start on the player side of things. When I went back to look at your Hendon Mob, I noticed that your first tournament cash was back in June 2003, almost 20 years ago, in a San Francisco area poker room for $460. So that begs the question, are you the product, also like me and like so many of us out there, of the moneymaker boom, or does your interest in poker go even further back than that?
So I'm way before moneymaker. I was playing poker with Daniel Negreanu back in the mid 90s at Mirage, playing 10-20 or 20-40 limit hold'em at Mirage before they even opened Bellagio. I went to college in Tucson, Arizona. I went to the University of Arizona, and my first year there, when I was 18, by luck and coincidence, they opened their first tribal casino in Tucson. And my friends and I would go down there, just 18-year-old degenerates without any money. We would scrounge up as much as we could find, $5, $20, whatever, to go down and play. And originally we were playing like blackjack or video poker or whatever. Well, one day we show up and they had outlawed table games, leaving only poker as an option. Mm-hmm. So, we started, my friends and I kind of jumped in some poker games, really had no idea what we were doing. But that was in 1993. And that's when I first was introduced to live poker. Absolutely fell in love with the game and started reading every book I could, and played in some tournaments that I actually cashed in, but I think it was long before the Hendon Mob actually started tracking anything. So no, I'm an old school guy. I'm relatively young to be an old school guy, but right. I've been playing live since the early 90s.
That's unbelievable. So it was just you wanted to gamble and that's what was available, or was there something particular about poker that really sunk its teeth into you that you got so interested in it?
Well, I think the gambling aspect is what sort of drew me to it initially, just because I was young and silly and always had these dreams of making a lot of money, and that at the time seemed like the real fast track to becoming a billionaire.
Wow.
But quickly learning that it's tough to do well in a casino gambling environment. But really, I've always kind of been just a very strategic thinker and always loved games, particularly strategy or skill-based games. So when I was introduced to poker, it was really just an immediate, I just felt so comfortable and so just at home with the game. I mean, the skill elements, the sort of gambling related elements, the just the people interaction, everything about the game just really was kind of an instant relationship between me and poker. I just fell in love with the game.
Sure. And if you say you're back in already 97, you're playing for those higher limits than just starting out against Negreanu in the Mirage. That was the place to play. At that point, I guess you considered yourself and really saw the future as being a professional poker player?
Well, it took a while. I mean, I started playing 2-4 limit poker, 2-4 limit hold'em, sorry. And we also had 2-4 Omaha and 1-4 stud, 7-card stud was still around back then.
Spread
So,
limit. Wow.
right. So no, I mean, believe me, I lost plenty of money, had to sell plenty of books to get more money to keep, going and playing poker. But I would say by about year 2 or year 3, after having read a lot of books and ultimately escalated from 2-4 limit to 3-6 limit to 4-8 limit to 6-12 limit, and started to kind of dabble in the 10-20 limit game, I became a consistent winner in the game. And as a junior in college, making 20 to 30,000 a year playing poker, it was a great lifestyle, really. So at the time, my friends and I would drive up or fly up to Vegas, and we would take shots in some of the bigger games, 10, 20, 20, 40. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I was a professional at the time, but after a couple of years of kind of learning how to become a winning player, I was certainly a winning player.
Sure. Well, between, I guess, 93 and that first tournament result that I saw on the Hendon Mob. So obviously you're playing a lot of poker, and slowly but surely, and especially at the tail end there, the game is, getting more and more and more popular. And, you're one of the old hands, you've got the experience, and you love seeing more people come into the rooms. Was it sort of your plan, your thought of like, okay, this is just where I'm going to be, how I'm going to make my living? Or you just said, okay, maybe there's an industry side of things here? What point did your brain start going, okay, what do I want for my future in poker?
Right. So I always, even as a child, my dad and I used to go on ski trips up to Lake Tahoe. And we would ski during the days, and then in the evenings, he was actually a poker player, not a professional one, but he would go and play poker, and he would give me like a roll of quarters to go to the arcade. And of
Same
course,
here. I love it. It's good times.
I would go
Yeah.
play not a $10 roll, a $5 roll. Anyway,
Oh
but
wow.
anyway,
Is
I
this
would have some
Harvey's
quarters.
Lake Tahoe?
That was one of the places. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Good times.
Oftentimes in Reno. I mean, also, all around Tahoe, we used to go to different places every trip. But basically in the evenings, he would give me these quarters and I would go play in the arcade. But ultimately, I would just go sit and stare at the casino because I was just so fascinated with just the gaming world. Even as a 9 and a 10-year-old, it just was so fascinating to me. And so I always kind of dreamt of owning a casino as a child.
Wow.
And I would say to this day, that's still a dream of mine, to own a casino. But anyway, so I'm getting involved in poker and, falling in love with the game and starting to do well at the game. And my senior year, I was currently up about 30,000 on the year. And that was only playing, that was mostly playing 10, 20 and 15, 30 limit Hold'em, which is the biggest games at the casino I was playing at. Well, when I was interviewing for jobs coming out of college, the average starting salaries were like 30 to 40,000 in my, in the business finance field, which is what I studied. And I remember talking to my father, who, my family is real big on education. But I remember having a conversation with my father, like, look, Dad, I'm already up 30,000 this year, and that's only playing, probably 20, maybe 30 hours a week. If I do this full time and I play higher stakes, I could probably make 60,000 a year right away. So why do I want to go get a real job that's only going to pay me, 35,000?
Yeah.
And so I was really at a sort of a pivotal point in my life where I didn't want to have a job. I just wanted to play poker because I can make more money than I could work at that time. And my father gave me some real good words of wisdom that I always like to share with people. He said, well, you're right, son. You might be able to go and make 60,000, a year playing poker. And that might be more than what you're going to make, your first year working. But the difference is, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, what kind of, future or financial savings or, lifestyle will you have? Because in poker, you can't just keep increasing the limits and expect to win at the same rate. The games are going to get tougher. Your opponents are going to get tougher. He says where, similarly in business, the harder you work, the more you will get promoted and take on more responsibility. And frankly, the better you are at what you do, regardless of what it is, the more money you'll make. So yes, you may make more money today playing poker, but 10 years from now, you'll still be making 60, 70, 80,000 in poker, Whereas in, having some experience, maybe starting your own company and maybe becoming a VP or president in a existing company, you're limiting yourself. You could be a millionaire in 10 years from business, whereas in poker, that's never going to happen.
Wow.
Or obviously certain exceptions to that rule apply.
Sure.
There's plenty of poker millionaires, but not nearly as many business millionaires. And my father, knowing that I always sort of had dreams and hopes of having a nice, savings account.
Sure.
That was advice, and it all just clicked. It made sense.
That's solid
And,
advice. I mean, you're in
yeah.
your early 20s at this time. It's one thing to now, all these years later, and myself also, I guess we're similar generation, just a few years apart, to know, yeah, that's some solid life advice there. But to take that advice and understand it and run with the ball at that early age, that certainly takes something special. Kudos to you. Good stuff. This is a question I wanted to ask you a little later, but I have to ask it now because it just makes sense. I mean, you mentioned you've got your degree in finance. You also have an MBA. And for most of your working career, you've really had that sort of entrepreneurial streak. You first co-founded this company called Reatrix Systems and subsequently Overlay Entertainment. You're currently the parent company of PokerAtlas. Beyond your father's advice and that coming sort of from the outside, how about internally? Where does that entrepreneurial streak come from? What motivates you?
That's a great question. I don't know if it's just a genetic kind of coincidence or if it has to do with some role models in my life. My father and my uncle were both very entrepreneurial, both formally educated, but also both became very successful in their lines of work and ultimately started their own companies that went well. So again, I don't know if it's something that's just kind of naturally instilled in my sort of ambition, just in my core that I was born with. Mm-hmm. Or if it's just from looking at my role models in life. But, I've always kind of been a, I don't know, just someone who always likes to build and improve things. So, I mean, starting as a very young child, whether it was puzzles, whether it was Legos, whether it was a coloring book, I mean, I was obsessive to, always complete the project, building models, electric trains, whatever it was, I would just obsess over whatever it was to build like the biggest train or the biggest erector set or, biggest Lego thing. And I couldn't sleep until I finished the project. So I think that all kind of goes into, some of my personality traits, a bit of OCD, a bit of being a perfectionist, but also one who just really likes to build things and kind of carve my own path a lot of the time. So yeah, I've had a few jobs. I worked at a grocery store. I worked at my first job out of college was as a financial analyst for Petco, the big pet supply retail chain here, at their corporate office. And I don't know. I've always kind of been someone who has ideas and likes to pursue his ideas. And I'd say, generally I have a pretty good I don't know, self-awareness to where, when understanding when something is worth pursuing or maybe not pursuing. But yeah, I mean, I'm just not quite sure exactly, but I just know I've always kind of pursued, entrepreneurial thoughts and endeavors. And when I had the chance to do so coming out of graduate school, because ultimately I was working at Petco, loved the company, loved the team I was working with, but I just got bored. I mean, I was to the point after like 4, 5, 6 months where the entire week of work I needed to do, I could have done on Mondays by lunch, building out the reports, but I didn't let my manager know that.
Of course,
time for a little while, like any 22-year-old would do. And, I just, after about a year and a half of that, I just got really bored and didn't feel challenged at all. And decided I was going to just apply to some business schools and see what happened. And I got accepted to a couple and chose to pursue an MBA. And coming out of business school, I was maybe lucky in that I was graduating in 2001. It was right after the dot-com bubble burst.
Yeah.
which was a huge kind of drop in the sort of employment, workplace economy in terms of, in fact, half of my graduating class in business school who had job offers had them rescinded because so many companies were downsizing and, ran out of funding and whatnot because it was such a drastic shift in the, internet world at the time when the bubble burst. So anyway, I might have been lucky that, suddenly there were not a lot of jobs available coming out of grad school. And so I was, paired up and met a computer science graduate from Stanford who had a cool technology and kind of said, well, I don't, have any other, better opportunities right now. So let's try to start a company.
Wow.
And it ended up, working out pretty well and never looked back. So
my goodness.
And I've kind of always done my own thing.
When you combine those, like that perfect storm of factors, plus, that need for motivation and to do more, that, that OCD that you talk about, with something you're super passionate about, like poker, it sounds like, a good recipe for good things to happen. But to have that passion for poker, it's not just, okay, wanting to make lots of money, but you also have to love the game itself. And as we alluded to before, and I want to just, touch back on the player's side of Jon Friedberg as well. I mean, you have done quite a bit in poker as well, not just, playing with Negreanu. You had your marquee moment. You won a 1K no limit hold'em event at the WSOP back in 2006, over $500,000. Can you talk about what that meant to you as far as, was that life-changing money? Was it more the achievement? Because, you've played plenty of poker. Is this a monkey you were trying to get off your back? What was your state of mind after hoisting the bracelet back then?
So once I fell in love with poker, which didn't take long at all, we used to sit around and play. And when I wasn't doing homework in between hands, I was flipping through Card Player magazine, which was, Linda Johnson's company at the time. And, looking at the World Series, like I knew that I wanted to win a World Series bracelet at some point, and I knew I was going to. And it was just one of those, not that I knew in some sort of foresight, crystal ball, but just that when I set my mind on, when I set a goal, I don't quit until I accomplish that goal. And that's just part of my personality, which, has pros and cons to it, of course.
Sure.
But my point is that since very, very early on in my poker days, I always had my sights set on winning a World Series event. And, when I moved to Las Vegas in 2004, that was after leaving Reactrix and ready to just take some time off and play poker. And so I decided, I was basically playing poker full time, which coincidentally happened to be during the Moneymaker era where, he won in what, 2003, and the whole mainstream world was coming to poker right around 2004, which is right when I started to play full time. So anyway, I was playing a lot online and live, but in 2006, I was, fortunate enough to make a final table at the World Series. It was my third year playing in, multiple World Series events, and, was lucky and fortunate to go on to win that tournament for a little over $500,000. I would say the money wasn't life-changing. I mean, it was a very, big difference in my poker bankroll, of course. But, $500,000 can go very fast. So I wouldn't say that was life-changing money, but certainly it was a life-changing experience in so many ways. I mean, it was my number one goal in life at the time, just to, win a World Series bracelet. I won it, so that was fortunate. The notoriety and basically it was just sort of like a real special moment for me that, you put so much thought and dedication and time into a goal, and then you achieve that goal. It kind of like instills the confidence in you that you can really do anything you put your mind to and set your sights on. So, more than anything, and not that was the first time in my life that I hit a milestone achievement that made me feel that way, but it was, it was one in my favorite hobby, which at the time was my whole lifestyle.
Right.
So what was really life-changing about it was sort of the notoriety that came with it. and the respect from others, where suddenly I would go places and people would recognize me, or I would see myself on TV, which is a very weird thing because my event happened to be televised, and got a lot of airtime. So that was cool. I had some sponsorship deals come in at the time. I was endorsed by Poker Stars after that, which was pretty neat. So anyway, yeah, it was a very life-changing experience, but and the money was significant, but it wasn't life-changing money.
Interesting. And you said, well, that was your entire lifestyle at the time. So let's parse that apart. How much live poker, how much online poker, how much cash games tournaments? What was sort of like the balance that you were striking? And at what point did that evolve to something more of, okay, I'm more focused on building my business, but I also still play poker?
Right. So at the time I had kind of sold, I was leaving, I'd left Reactrix and wasn't, other than maintaining a board seat and flying back to the Bay Area once a month, I think. Other than that, I really wasn't working at all. I was doing some consulting here and there for a few hours here and there and help with some other startups. But basically, I was just playing live poker full time. That was in 2004 into 2005. I was playing a little bit online, but I would say during 2005, I was slowly transitioning from, let's call it 80% live, 20% online, to at the end of the year, probably, 80 to 90% online and 10 to 20% live.
Interesting.
So I was not playing a whole lot of live poker just because there was so many, big tournaments online, and I was, playing every evening, and of course weekends and Sundays were huge.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
but of course for the World Series and some other, tournament series that were running out, I always try to play live. And so yeah, I mean, at the time I won the bracelet in 06, I was I was a pretty, well-known, I guess you could say, or online player. I had achieved some online results, so I was ranked in Pocket Fives rankings, which were kind of the big deal back then.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I had built a bit of a name for myself and had some success in online, and then won that tournament in the World Series. So I was very familiar with playing live poker, as I had already been playing for I don't know, 10, 15 years at the time. But I was already kind of predominantly an online player.
Right.
But as far as like, as it relates to this business, like I ended up playing poker, after the World Series, although I was already kind of technically playing professionally. But after winning that bracelet, I kind of decided to start traveling on the tour and playing WPT events and some EPT events and just traveling on the tournament circuit. And so for about, 5 or 6 or gosh, maybe even 7 years, I wasn't really working at all. I was just playing poker full time and, again, doing some consulting here and there. It wasn't until 2010 when I really started to kind of get, a little bit bored with the poker scene, and the fields were getting way more tougher to play against. So I wasn't producing the same results, nor was I as, passionate about continuing to learn and improve. And I was just kind of ready to get back into the entrepreneurial world and think of, a business to get involved in. And, that was sort of when I eventually, ultimately started this company, PokerAtlas. Was in it all started right around April beginning of April in 2011. Totally a coincidence that Black Friday happened, totally unrelated. But anyway, I guess it was, meant to be.
Well, it's funny because that's exactly, I mean, again, it is my next question. As a matter of fact, I mean, that kind of seems like the worst possible time in a way to begin some sort of especially entrepreneurial, starting from scratch, like a poker business. I mean, you knew your way around the felt, you knew what's going on, already a veteran at that time of the poker scene. And then Black Friday goes ahead and happens. Why didn't you just say, okay, I'll pick a better spot, I'll fold, I'll go back to playing poker, which is what I know. I live in Las Vegas. You forged ahead with your idea.
Right. Well, ironically, at the time, I was the business, which initially started as All Vegas Poker, and then grew into PokerAtlas, and and now we've even grown much further than that. But at the time Black Friday happened, all Vegas Poker and PokerAtlas was pretty much purely focused on live poker.
Right.
And when Black Friday happened, all the online, well, most of the online sites in the US went away, but as a result, the land-based poker rooms were all packed because everyone still wanted to play. So it was, ironically, it almost seemed like the right time to start this business, because we were focused on live poker, not online. And suddenly live poker was booming because online had just been killed. Well, several months later, it became clear that, the money dried up. People still hadn't gotten their money off of the online sites yet for a while. And even live poker sort of took a big dive. And frankly, the company, which I'm going to call PokerAtlas, even though technically that's not the name of my corporation, but at the time, PokerAtlas was struggling. It was down to like 2 people. I previously had, I don't know, maybe 15, 16 employees. I was all the way down to about 2 people.
Wow.
And I was kind of just at a critical point of like, what am I doing? Do I want to, really try to salvage this thing and turn it into something, or is it time to just move on and find a better opportunity? And that was precisely the time when we started to enter the software space, which really was kind of a saving grace for the company, because prior to that, all of the revenue from PokerAtlas was generated by, advertising revenue from poker rooms.
Sure.
And given the fact that, poker was just not doing well in general, live poker, there wasn't a lot of ad revenue. So we were, still relying on, investor money, and it wasn't profitable. And it was just kind of trying to doggy paddle to keep this thing afloat. But once we finally got into the software space, which is in 2014, I think, that's when everything started to take a turn, because it just turned out to be a much more profitable part of the business that ultimately, helped me save the company from, going under.
Sure. I mean, obviously, we all know the good financial advice. It's good to diversify, have multiple revenue streams, and that's something you you had to learn the hard way. When you came up with this idea, though, like I imagine you drew upon your experience with the MBA, with your studies in finance, and again, knowing poker, all these sorts of things. What was the original goal of, like, what did you want originally when you first conceived it? PokerAtlas to be, and then at what point did it evolve over the years into what it currently is?
Right. Well, going back to when I was in college playing poker, the best source of information for what, poker offerings were available was the back pages of Card Player magazine.
Yep.
This is before the internet, really. I mean, technically it existed, but no one really used it. At least not mainstream consumers, and certainly nobody looking for poker information, because Ask Jeeves didn't know where the next tournament was. But so actually, when I was in college, I came up with an idea of a website. This is obviously later in college, when things like websites were becoming public knowledge. Something called Poker Trip, because I, as a poker player, always thought there needs to be one place where poker players can go to see all of the options on where and when to play. And so I actually purchased the domain name pokertrip.com, in the whatever mid to late 90s, as kind of an idea, along with 30 other ideas that I had, domains that none of which I was able to sell for millions like some people did. But anyway, so going back to my early days of poker, I always felt like there was a need for some sort of resource where people can see everything happening everywhere. And so it was really, after playing more and traveling more and starting to, look beyond. Obviously, if you're just playing like the high stakes tournament circuit, there's really only so many events. There's not really a need for a lot of resources, because the next event is the WPT event at Borgata, for example, or wherever. But when you're just looking for your average, $100 Wednesday night, no limit Hold'em tournament, sometime between, 7 and 9 p.m. when you get off of, there's really not a good tool for that. So it was always an idea that I had in my mind. but never really had the real ambition to pursue it
Mhm.
until around 2011. I was introduced to the fellow who had started the site called All Vegas Poker, and I won't go into all the details, but long story short, he said, I've got this site. It's sort of a discussion forum and a directory and tournament schedules for all the Las Vegas poker rooms. And he's like, I know you're kind of a business guy and I'm not, and would you be interested in taking over the site? And so that's kind of how it all started. I
Mm.
agreed to buy that site from him and turned it into what is now PokerAtlas.
Right.
At which time I kind of reunited with my idea and vision from many years prior to
Mhm.
actually bring it to life.
Right.
And we were still at a time when most people were using magazines for information, whether it was Card Player or Bluff or probably Ante Up if they were already around then. And
Mm.
we were a little bit ahead of our time
Yeah.
because it used to be I would call casinos and say, "Hey, can we get your tournament schedule so we can publish it?" And they're like, "Who is this?" I'm like, "Oh, and my name's Jon from PokerAtlas." Who the hell is PokerAtlas? We're not interested. Thank you. And so it was really an uphill battle. And admittedly, I wasn't the one generally making those phone calls. I had a couple of folks who have been with me for a long time: Rob Solomon, Scooter, Mark Durant. So we've got a couple of guys on my team that really do that full time. But ultimately, no one took us serious. Nobody wanted to spend money advertising on PokerAtlas because they were already buying the full page ads in Card Player. And why do
Right.
we need anything else at the time? And now it's completely switched, right? So
Sure.
now the world has embraced technology and the internet, and print media is kind of going away. And it's a very different story now when we call a property and say, "Hi, I'm XYZ from PokerAtlas." They generally know who we are.
Yep.
And, it's a different world. So
Hmm.
we
That's
were a
for
little bit ahead of our time when we started, but that might be the reason we've found some success, more recently.
for sure. So this you may chuckle at this one. Back in 2013, you tweeted the following. I risk thousands playing poker and millions building businesses. Meanwhile, mom is gunning for a $1 win in her mahjong game today. So we'll try to give you a chuckle. So let's talk briefly just about that millions, the idea of building a business. I mean, it's one thing to have that great idea, but it's another to be able to execute on that idea. How did you go about building that winning team that enabled you to produce the product that you wanted to have?
Well, I mean, really my first endeavor for, any sort of entrepreneurial project that involved raising capital was my last company, Reactrix.
Okay.
And I think I was 26 years old coming out of graduate school and business school. And, obviously in business school, you write business plans and you sort of have these, fake negotiations where you're trying to
Mhm.
improve your negotiation skills on things and case studies and other things. So you kind of learn a lot of, textbook stuff, but in the real world is very different. And to answer your question, I had zero experience in the real world other than a couple of years working at Petco and a couple of years in business school practicing stuff. But basically, I had a business idea. It started with a product from the fellow that I was working with from Stanford. Basically built a business idea out of it. Spent a lot of time on campus, even after I graduated, just using the free Wi-Fi and the printers and whatnot to kind of research and write a business plan. And I had good relationships with some of my professors, so I went to them often and asked for their opinion and feedback, and ultimately came up with a business plan that seemed to be a very credible business opportunity that filled an innovative niche in digital media that didn't exist yet. And so we kind of pursued it. And, I brought on a fellow named Mike Shaman, who was a classmate of mine at Pepperdine Business School, and Matt Bell, who has had a phenomenal career since then. But anyway, he was a Stanford computer scientist. The three of us really started the company, spent a lot of time, building out business ideas and business models and financial models, and ultimately took it to friends and family and said, look, we think that this idea can, result in a business that can eventually be worth a lot of money to somebody eventually buying us for, $100 million or whatever.
Sure.
And all we need to get this business off the ground is $500,000. And so we're selling, whatever, 20% of the company to raise $500,000. And we're asking for a minimum $50,000 investment. So, yeah, I mean, it really just, it's really just like fundraising 101. We had a business plan, we had a product, we had an idea, and we had, what at the time we thought was a credible team, even though the three of us were, very young, but we were driven, we were smart, we were, not willing to quit.
Right.
And our, friends and family investors believed in us enough to, give us that first 500,000 or 600,000 to get things going.
It's super fascinating. I have to say, I have to pause the story at this point because, again, a part of my whole fascination of getting to know the guy and the story behind PokerAtlas, we all take it so for granted. Oh, just look on PokerAtlas, put your name there. It's almost a given in today's day and age of looking for all the information. To hear this origin story, but also like the guts, how driven you were, and you had to take it to the streets and make this idea happen. I find it just utterly fascinating. So just more power to you. Sorry, you can continue. I did have one more specific name I wanted to mention there, but go ahead.
But yeah, I mean, that's how I started Reactrix. That's also how I started PokerAtlas. Although the second time around with PokerAtlas, I had a heck of a lot more experience.
Yeah.
So, I didn't have to rely as much on a business plan because I already had a little bit more credibility established. So at that point, it was, a lot easier to raise capital after a, sort of quasi-successful startup already, under my feet. So,
sure.
So yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it all started. And then, you make a little progress, go back to your investors, say, look, we need more money, but we can show you that we've, made progress from A to B. Now we need another $1 million to get from B to C.
Right.
But at that point, $1 million sounds like a lot of money, but, in the grand scheme of things, when you can show that you're building an entity that, has sort of a possible value of much higher than that.
Yeah.
$1 million isn't a lot of money all of a sudden to someone who thinks that they can, invest that to, for a return of, a good return. And ultimately at Reactrix, that tweet at Reactrix, we had raised, at the time I was at the company, I mean, in total, we raised over $100 million in capital because the business needed that much money to get to the point where we could become, theoretically a $1 billion company, which never happened. But, we had a very justifiable story that, penciled out, so to speak, to where, we could, prove on paper that with $100 million, that could help us build out what we needed after all of the proof of concept that had been validated up to that point to take us to, a $1 billion valuation. So anyone who put in 100 million would effectively, make an 10x multiple on their money.
Right.
Way more to it than that, but that's kind of the short version. So anyway, my point is, I grew up with a lot of, I always have a lot of ambition, a very high risk tolerance. I like to build things big, and I'm willing to, put up a lot of money to do so, whether it's poker or business or whatever. My mom, on the other hand, completely, has no risk tolerance at all. To this day, I literally, we talk every day. To this day, she plays mahjong almost every day with her friends. On a good day, she'll win $3-4. On a bad day, she'll lose 3 or 4. She almost never loses because she's brilliant. And I guess I know nothing about the game, but it is a skill game, and she just crushes her friends, but they play for such small stakes. So it's kind of I remember writing that tweet, actually. Yeah, that was just pointing out a difference between my mom and myself. We have very different risk tolerances.
And I love also just, threw in that little extra special nugget there. You're never too old, folks, to give your mom a call every single day. It's a beautiful thing to do. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong here. I do think that I recall the great Kevin Mathers also did some work for PokerAtlas. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Mathers is Kev Math is one of the staples in the poker world. I mean, he's literally like the poker encyclopedia.
Mhm.
Um, and he's a friend of mine. He has actually worked for me on and off, mostly on for a number of years, but kind of behind the scenes, really. He was never really a lot of people didn't know he worked for us, but he was one of our content team members where he
Mhm.
was responsible for a certain part of the US where he contacted the properties to get their updated tournament schedules and whatnot.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, he's no longer with us,
Right.
but we love Kev Math, and he was instrumental to helping us get to where we are today, and he's someone that I just have a tremendous amount of appreciation and admiration for.
Sure. Good dude.
And he
Just
does
shows we
he
do
does
do
so
our
much for the
research. We
poker
do our
world that no
digging.
one recognizes, that people
So,
don't realize. He is such a big asset to all of us. Yeah.
he's huge. And for those of you guys who do want to learn a little bit more about Kevin Mathers, also, he was on episode number 45. Again, this is episode 121, 120 other great episodes of the Cards Chat podcast to listen to after you finish this one, if you haven't already. John, to pivot a little bit, no good business goes without competition. PokerAtlas is not the only operator in your space. There is competition. I think it's safe to say, you can say Bravo Poker, it's fine. How would you say that your company's product is different and unique as an offering?
Right. Well, first off, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Bravo, and what they achieved, I think, is really something I admire and I respect and I look up to. And I would say I have a friendly relationship with the owner of Bravo. He's a very nice guy. And again, just a ton of admiration for what they did. They basically created sort of a new world of poker player tracking, waitlist management, and really just player tracking and comps management in poker, along with a lot of other things. And they were really able to go out and just get every major poker room, in the US. And, I was actually talking to them long before I even had any sort of ideas of getting into the software space. But anyway, so, yeah, they're definitely our big competition here. The industry is big enough to support more than one supplier. And, I have all the respect in the world for them. But as far as our product, I mean, we really try to, we listen to what we've heard out there in terms of the feedback from properties. Our initial focus was really going after properties that didn't already have Bravo, because it's just a lower hanging fruit, so to
Sure.
speak.
Sure.
Once a casino or a poker room makes an investment in a software provider, it's hard to get them to switch. And so we really just focused on going after the properties that didn't already have a commitment to Bravo, really. Since then we've grown, but really we just kind of keep our eye on the same focus, which is we want to just provide a product that benefits properties and players alike, and facilitates sort of that win-win relationship between players and operators, and offer the best tools and resources to poker rooms and players.
Cool.
And that's a combination of having good, reliable software, a good product, and ultimately great support.
Sure.
And so while we do have a tremendous amount of respect for what Bravo does, we don't really look at them so much as how we want to run our operation. We just focus on our product development, our innovation, our customer service, and beyond that, it's just all about the results.
That's
So
great.
I think what a lot of companies would probably tell you is they don't pay too much attention to their competition. If you do that, you end up just trying to copycat. So, I think we're really just trying to sort of carve our own path, and we recognize that both Bravo and PokerAtlas are great products in different capacities, and
Sure.
we hope hope properties choose us, and you know,
Sure, that's a
go from
very
there.
very healthy attitude. You mentioned the players and being beneficial to the rooms. Folks, if you're listening, you can't see. If you're watching on YouTube, you obviously see right behind Jon, big old banner. It says "Table Captain." I believe that's the part that services the room. Can you tell us, kind of in a nutshell, or when you're trying to pitch it to a poker room, what exactly is Table Captain? And again, how did that idea come about as far as expanding your business further over the years?
Right. So yes, our software system is called Table Captain, but that's really only a name that the properties, poker rooms themselves are familiar with. Pretty much everyone refers to us across the board as PokerAtlas. We often even refer to ourselves, our own software, as PokerAtlas. But yeah, I mean, basically, it's a software system that really powers the sort of administration of running a live poker room. From the waiting list management, live game management, player tracking, comps, tournament management. In some properties we do what's called Title 31, which is, I won't bore you with that, but basically just kind of a full suite of functionality that services the needs for land-based poker rooms. With that, it's all integrated with our PokerAtlas website and mobile app. So any property that's using our Table Captain software has real-time information on PokerAtlas, which enables players to see in real time what games and tournaments are running, view clocks in real time, join the wait list through our mobile app, which is a really popular feature.
Yep.
And a few other benefits, seeing blind structures, tournament attributes, all automated, because once a property creates a tournament in their Table Captain system, the system then sends that up to our PokerAtlas cloud server, which then publishes everything on our website and mobile app for players to see. As far as when, why I decided or when I decided to enter the software space, I believe it was in 2000, either late 13 or early 2014. I got a phone call from a gentleman who, just a cold call. He called me and he said, "Hey, I've got a software system, and you've got a great website with information. We should work together." And I thought, yeah, great, good idea, sure, let's talk sometime. But never really took him too serious,
Right.
because I just kind of always gotten a lot of just calls from people pitching products and services. But anyway, I didn't really take him too serious. Well, a couple months later, he called me back and he said, "Hey, I'm in Las Vegas. Can we meet? I want to show you what I've got." So I met him and he showed me kind of a very quick demo of his system. And at the time, I knew nothing about, enterprise software needs for poker rooms per se, but it showed me sort of, how the tournament module works and waiting lists and how everything could be real time on a mobile app. And I was blown away. So he and I, Steve Jenkins was his name. He and I started working together right away. And ultimately, my company acquired his company and brought him on full time. And so Steve has been a very, very integral part of everything since that day onward, up until today. He's been our lead architect on everything related to Table Captain. And, he and I are both poker guys and idea guys. So we've just had a great time over the last 10 years now, just about building upon what he had created.
Cool. All right. Well, you seem to like that first tweet that I dug up, Jon. So here's another one for you. Back in 2016, you tweeted the following: "It feels weird going through airport security with just over 1.3 billion in my wallet. My hunch is that that's Bitcoin related." Do you care to, do you have any comment on that tweet at all?
Oh my God, I wish it was Bitcoin related. I would have a heck of a lot more money than I have now. Actually, that was just at the time, I think the Powerball or Mega Millions jackpot was very high. I had bought some tickets that I had on me, and it was just kind of a hopeful joke that I was holding the winning ticket for the $1.3 billion jackpot.
Okay. I thought, well,
I really,
I
believe
had to
me,
give it a
man,
shot,
if that
right?
were Bitcoin money, which would probably be worth what, like 200 million today. I'd still be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I can imagine. All right. Well, since the rooms started opening there a few years back, PokerAtlas has quickly built up a very dominant presence in Texas. What can you tell us about, from your interesting and unique perspective about the poker scene in the Lone Star State, and what do you feel like the future holds for poker in Texas?
Well, first off, yeah, we have a very big presence in Texas, which is very special to me personally because I'm from Texas. I'm a Texan. I wasn't technically born in Houston, but moved there when I was 6 months old, and family's still there, and I definitely consider myself a Texan at heart. So when we started getting the calls from Texas poker clubs, which came to existence right around, if I'm not mistaken, sometime around 2016, maybe 2015. We started getting calls around 2016 or so. It was never anything we really took too serious because they had a different way of doing business, and we found them to be somewhat, clunky operations compared to the more formal casinos and licensed card room establishments in California and Florida and other places we were working with. So it was never really anything we took too serious, but at the same time, the demand, poker is huge in Texas, and it's always been flooded with these underground games. And as there's problems when it comes to underground games, whether it's criminal activity or drugs or just unsafe business practices. And so, my real hope when seeing that poker was coming to fruition in Texas was let's do what we can to help facilitate a healthy environment, right, of playing that's safe for players, that has responsibility by the operators, so they're not taking advantage of, basically implementing the same types of safe gambling or problem gambling measurements that might be in real casinos. Try to provide or help establish a more professional poker world in Texas. But specifically because of the laws in Texas, what makes it legal there is that the properties, they don't generally take rake. It's all based on a time purchase model. So you're paying based on time, and they're private clubs. You have to pay a membership fee and so on and so forth. And so what we did was we basically took our table captain system and built another version of it that had new features to support membership management and player time tracking in a different method than what we did for casinos and other things. So we basically built kind of a different version of our product to support the poker club market, which at the time was mostly in Texas. And we just had a good product and had some early successes with some of the more notable properties in the state, like Prime Social and Post Oak Poker Club in Houston, and ultimately Texas Card House, and now the Lodge, and all the major and a lot of the minor properties we work with also. So we but yeah, I mean, it's a big part of our business now. Like I said, it's important to me because it's Texas, and it's also important to me because we're able to help shape a nice and safe, legitimate poker environment. And so it's especially fun for me because I really don't, I really do not, I'm not in favor of underground games. I'm not in favor of, any sort of cheating or anything that is, not a healthy playing environment. So it's been a great experience to not only watch all these properties come to fruition, but help improve their business operations, but also help try to shape the industry as one that is just a general safe environment for players to enjoy the game that we love. As far as the future of poker in Texas, I think the state has a positive future. I know there's some groups, Doug Polk and I, or sorry, not Doug Polk and I, but Doug Polk is working on an initiative that is sort of a collaboration with multiple properties and PokerAtlas, really just a lobbying effort to inform the government, the state government, of how poker is a good thing and can help add jobs, and be basically asking for regulation for making everything very well sanctioned and overseen, and helping to even further formalize the industry. I think that will come in time because I think that's just sort of what the state will demand. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of players that love the game,
Yeah.
and it's just safer to have legal regulated poker than the opposite of that. So with so many other states legalizing various forms of gaming, whether it's sports betting or online poker or online casino or whatever, I think that's going to really help pave the way for Texas to do the same. And I think poker will be I think has a very favorable future in Texas.
Well, certainly one additional thing you're doing to make a big splash in the Texas poker scene. For the first time, at least as far as that I'm aware of, you've announced the launch of the PokerAtlas Tour. You've got a 12 tournament event stop featuring total guarantees of over $1 million at Texas Card House. Soon after this episode is airing, late May 18th through 30th. What made you decide to launch a poker tour? It's not software. Just sort of, what are your sort of hopes for this first stop, this first foray into, doing live poker and for the future?
Right. Well, obviously, as a player, I love playing in events. And, since I've gotten involved in this company, we've also run, dozens of live events, typically just single events, whether it's a nightly, community mix game at a particular property, which you're no stranger to, obviously, Robbie.
Yeah.
But also we've done, a handful of bigger single tournament events or multi-flight events.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've always kind of just had the aspiration of starting our own tour to,
Mm-hmm.
not only sort of craft a poker experience that I personally would love and share that with, so many other poker players, but also, help build our PokerAtlas brand,
Mm-hmm.
help, leverage the audience that we have on PokerAtlas, since we do have such a large audience of poker enthusiasts, and ultimately also to showcase our technology, our table captain system, and how it can very well power tournament operations for land-based poker rooms. So it's really kind of a mixture of a passion and a desire to promote our product together, while just doing something that we love.
Cool.
We love the software side, and we love playing, and we love just creating fun, memorable poker experiences. And that's really what the PokerAtlas Tour is all about.
Awesome. Is there a bounty on your head?
No, I probably won't be playing any of the events, really.
That's
not
fair.
because I don't want to. I just honestly, I think it's a little bit tacky when, I wouldn't want to go and play one of our events and win it.
Right. Yeah,
I'm
that's
more
the right
just there
answer.
to be an ambassador. I would never want to be in a situation where it's my event and I win it. So
That is
for that
the right
reason, I
answer.
choose not to play, and I'd rather just be there to help support the event, make sure everything is run smoothly, and, greet the players and, share what we've created.
I know what that is all about. You're definitely speaking the truth there. One last question from me before we move to the community questions. You had alluded to it earlier. We're talking just about Resorts World in Las Vegas. When they opened, I guess it's close to 2 years ago. Obviously, you became the PokerAtlas. It was a PokerAtlas room, and I've seen you there quite a few times. You do host a bomb pot game. I forget the exact stakes, 5-10 bomb pot, something like that.
Well, so during the I'll say this quickly, but during the pandemic, I was hosting a weekly game at my house just
Okay.
with poker friends. We were playing, I think, 5-5 with a straddle, no
Okay.
limit. We didn't rake the game, nothing illegal, just
Of
a
course.
friendly gathering, although we didn't always wear face masks. But anyway, once Resorts World opened, and they were, of course, a customer of ours, I chose to move my game into Resorts World. So I now host the game there. We play a 5-10 no limit hold'em, but
Okay.
every dealer change, we do a double board, $50 double board PLO bomb pot.
Nice.
We play every Thursday at 4 o'clock and every Saturday at 2 o'clock. I guarantee you it is the best game, best action in all of Las Vegas. A lot of people know that. There's a lot of people that want to get into the game. But generally speaking, I sort of send in the list the day before the game every week, and you know, I try to kind of make it all sort of recreational fun players, not just a bunch of professionals, but
Sure.
it's also not a private game. So anyone is welcome to play. So we have
I've
a lot of fun.
seen
I know
it.
I've seen you there a few times.
Yeah.
When I'm not traveling, I'm there, and I really enjoy it. It's my escape, but it also gives me a chance to, you know, observe players and dealers and poker room staff interacting with
Sure.
our system. So as much as I go there and I love playing poker and sometimes drinking wine,
Hmm.
and just, you know, having fun with my friends, it's also very insightful to watch and observe how our system is used in the real world so we can, you
Mm.
know, help continue to improve our product.
Beautiful. Well, the question I did want to ask there, this is the friendliest poker podcast in town. So I don't know if it's someone from that game, which is basically your home game, or somewhere else across your poker careers. Who is the friendliest poker player you've ever had the opportunity to play against?
Oh gosh. That is a tough question. You know, I mean, I think Negreanu is a fantastic ambassador for the game. I know he's had some temperamental moments that people sometimes give him crap for, but he's always very friendly and fun to play with. Now, granted, I don't play with him often, but I certainly have played with him a number of times. Lucky Chewy, Andrew,
Ooh,
is it Lichtenberger, if I'm saying his name right?
Andrew Lichtenberger. Yeah.
I think he is absolutely one of the nicest people to play with. I've always been, you know, really admired him when every dealer change, he introduces himself and
Wow.
asks, you know, what the dealer's name is. Things you don't typically see in poker players, particularly, you know, very, very successful
Hmm.
poker players. So I mean, honestly, there's a lot of more so than not, I think a lot of the more famous poker players are generally pretty friendly.
Nice.
So I don't mean to say that, you know, suggest that those two are friendly and everyone else isn't. But
That's
you know, I
fair.
played with a lot over the years, but those two certainly come to mind, I would say, as being, you know, very friendly.
Very cool. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, of course, everyone out there. If maybe this is your first episode listening, but Daniel was our special 100th episode. And we did have Lucky Chewy, Andrew Lichtenberger on episode 105. So feel free to go back and listen to those after you finish with this one. Jon, this is now the segment of the show we turn to our Cards Chat community to see what questions you guys wanted to ask our guests. We have a dedicated thread on the Cards Chat forums for this. So as we announce who our future guests will be, please be sure to send in your questions. We'll try to do at least we'll try to do one from each question asker. So a name I haven't seen before, Takis30. Thank you very much for sending this one in. Jon, have you ever had a specifically crucial or disappointing moment in your poker playing history?
Oh gosh. How many have I had? So many. You know, the two that stand out really, without having time to really think this through. I remember early on in my poker career, I was playing 612 limit hold'em,
Mhm.
and I was involved in what, you know, at the time the games were ridiculous. Every street is capped, and so which is how these games used to be, and oftentimes still are. But playing 612 limit hold'em, I was up all night. It was early in the morning. I had pocket threes and the flop and a capped pre-flop, of course.
Of course.
Flop comes three, deuce, deuce. I flop top set full. And of course, it's capped on the flop. The turn, you know, it's as a blank, capped on the turn. The river is a deuce.
Oh.
And I forget what happened, but I think someone bet. I like snap muck my hand, thinking that my full house was counterfeited,
Right.
thinking that it was like the third three came on the board and I had pocket deuces. So I had it sort of backwards in my head. Anyway, I just impulsively snap mucked my hand on this massive pot. And you know, of
Wow.
course, like the winner of the hand had pocket jacks, which did not have a full, I mean, he had deuces full of jacks. So
Sure,
my
sure.
my hand would have won the hand. And that, you know, at the time I didn't have a lot of money. That was probably like a, I don't know, like a $600 pot, which really just gutted me.
Mhm.
So that was one experience that really stands out.
Hmm.
Another one, it was a 10,000 buy-in WPT event at Foxwoods.
Mhm.
We're down to 11 players and I'm the chip leader. And I think there was like first place is like 1.8 million. So a lot of money up top. I already had a bracelet at the time, so a little bit, later in my poker career at this point. But anyway, 11 players left. I'm chip leader and guaranteed, I think 38,000 was the 11th place payout. First place is like 1.8 million. Well, I went on to finish 11th place after running a top set into a flop straight that board never paired, and a couple other situations happened. And yeah, I really kind of expected to have a much bigger outcome, and walked home with, what sounds like a lot of money, but it was I felt like I lost $1 million, not like I won, 28,000. So those are probably the two biggest moments. But other than that, I'm sure there's been dozens of times where I really went home, mad at myself, feeling like I made the decision to either get stuck deeper in a game than I knew I should have, or
who hasn't?
Play. Like
who
we
hasn't?
All,
the last one though. Baloo 1982 wants to know, Jon, what do you hope to accomplish in poker in the year 2023?
I can honestly say that as a player, I felt like I had, one real goal, and that was to win a bracelet. And winning that, unlike others, some people say, oh, I only wanted to win one, and then once I won one, I really wanted to go on and win 2 and 5. Like, I don't really aspire to have 10 bracelets or anything like that. I wanted to experience one. I did it. So my poker goals this year, is really just not to lose money. and really it's more on the industry side. Like, I want to grow PokerAtlas. I want to service more players. I want to have more people thank me for, the great work that my team and I have done. And I want to walk into more places with my, PokerAtlas hat on, which we will soon be selling on our site, by the way. And have it be recognized. And it's way more on the business side. I want to improve our product, and we have some new feature ideas that we're going to be releasing soon, and looking forward to the market accepting those. So
awesome.
On the player side, but of course I will be playing some World Series events and would love to win the main event, but my real goals are focused on business, not so much playing anymore.
Cool. Well, you've actually answered the next question, which was asked. The same question by 2 question askers. I want to just shout them out there. They had asked, are you playing any WSOP events this year? Miriusaka 88 and Sablutchuk, 2 names I haven't seen before. So thank you both. And Jon already knew what you were going to ask, which is great. Acid Burn FX has a great question. Always ask some creative ones. Jon, what's the best part of your day and why?
Great question. Well, I'm not a morning person.
So, waking up when
this business, I have to say, it's a very, very stressful business, what I'm in, because anytime we make a mistake on the PokerAtlas side, if we publish wrong information, we have people yelling at us. We don't generally get compliments when it's correct information, but you'll certainly see people upset when we, accidentally say publish a tournament starting at 2 p.m. instead of 3 p.m. and 40 people show up to the property, or it's worse when it's, off later. But it's very stressful, right? I mean, not only that, but we're powering a lot of very, very major 24/7, 365 poker operations. And when the system is down, their business is affected, and that carries a lot of weight on, my shoulders and my whole team's shoulders, really. So I'll tell you, mornings are definitely not my favorite, because A, I'm more of a night person, and B, I'm always nervous opening my emails and looking at my messages that, hoping I don't have a message from Encore saying, WTF, our system is down, we need help, or something of that nature. But I don't know, I'd say probably like the end of the days is my favorite part of the day, outside of, certain meetings. This morning we had a very successful meeting with a very major poker room, and it went great. And so that was probably, other than this, a highlight of my day today. But generally speaking, the average day, probably at the end of the day, when I can look back and, sort of just take a moment to acknowledge either what was accomplished that day, or just what we've, grown as, and my team here at PokerAtlas, like what we've achieved over the years is rewarding. And I usually reflect on that kind of later in the day, not so much during the day when I'm in the trenches, but at the end of the day when I'm on my way home or laying down to go to sleep or whatever.
Nice. Kun Aguero Cruz. Interesting name. I don't think I've seen it before, maybe once. Clearly did their research on you, dug up this gem here. Apparently it said somewhere in, I guess, a press release, I don't know, the following, and then here's the question. PokerAtlas was originally founded way back in 2004 as allvegaspoker.com. Since then, we have grown steadily by leaps and bounds, including the merger between All Vegas Poker and PokerAtlas in 2014. The question is, can you give a specific example of a leap and bound that your company had to cope with to become successful?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's two real answers to that question. One is when your business is generating revenue, the primary revenue source through advertising, you have to have what's called critical mass in order to effectively sell advertising. So I'd say the first sort of leap and bound was getting our traffic or our user base from something that was, very small to something that was, a high enough number to where we could show sort of proven ability to, provide value to any advertiser in the form of masses, right? So that was sort of one, growing our traffic online to where we were, previously, I don't know, 20, 30,000 visitors a month. Now we're, over 1 million.
Amazing.
So
Wow.
that would be one example. The second one I would say is really just on the table captain side. I mean, we started out with a couple of very small card rooms in California that were obviously not influential properties necessarily to go out and get, someone like Encore Boston Harbor on board as a customer, or Playground in Montreal, major poker operations. So we really had to kind of, bootstrap everything and pursue kind of a grassroots approach of really just starting with whoever we could get and proving ourselves with those guys to kind of go up a tier and up a tier and up a tier to the point where we're able to sign on properties like Encore Boston Harbor or the Bicycle Casino or, Playground, Hustler, so many other major properties that we work with now, Club One in Fresno. I mean, there's so many, properties that initially we looked up as like, wow, what can we do to get to that? And now we've sort of accomplished a lot of those steps. So I think those are probably the two main areas that we've grown leaps and bounds.
Nice.
Yep.
Here's just, it's not even a question, and I just want to make sure we get through to everybody, but Love Poker writes, Jon, thank you for bringing us PokerAtlas. I have used it every time I want to go to Vegas or just find tournaments. It's so helpful. Thank you. So just want to put that out there. Wordy, WERTY 238, asks about how much time do you spend playing poker in general nowadays?
Not as much as I wish I could, to be totally honest. And at some point, I'm going to sell this company or retire or something, and I will be playing a heck of a lot more poker. But right now, I generally play, when I'm not traveling, I play twice a week in the game I host at Resorts World, Thursdays at 4 p.m., Saturdays at 2 p.m. I generally stay, 6 to 8 hours each day or each time that I play when I don't have other obligations. But so, yeah, I mean, I'd say I probably average, let's say 12 hours per week.
Not bad.
And occasionally I'll play in a tournament when my schedule permits. But for the most part, I mostly only play tournaments during the World Series timeframe.
Got it.
Yeah, and I travel a lot too. So, I'd say about half the time I can only play 1 day a week versus 2, but again, it comes in spurts.
For sure. Maddie Bumpo, this is a pretty specific question, maybe a suggestion, I'm not sure, asks or says as follows: there's so many tournaments out there, it is sometimes difficult to decide where you get the most for your money. Does PokerAtlas have any plans to add a ranking or scoring system to tournaments based on starting stack, blind value, buy-in, et cetera, to sort of give players more information to decide where to play?
So that's a common question and a common request from, serious players.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that's not something that I prefer to provide. When I first started the company, actually, All Vegas Poker, I sort of inherited All Vegas Poker that already had some of this information, and they did do they published like a return to player statistic, which is basically like the percentage of admin fees to, buy-in amount. And I decided to kind of take that away for a couple of reasons. One is, we try to really just be agnostic and let the players decide where they find value and not rank anything, since there's so many other factors to consider. But also, when you're in the business of trying to sell advertising to support the business, in reality, you have to be sort of very unbiased. And when you start to say, for example, you show statistically that, for example, a Caesars tournament has a lower percentage of the buy-in going to a prize pool than a win tournament, again, just as a random example, not saying that that is true, it kind of becomes an influence on where players play. And you have to be very careful when you're in the kind of business that I'm in to not be too influential, because ultimately that becomes more powerful than what you need to do to support the business, which is earn revenue so you can pay your employees so you can stay in business. So
Sure, of course.
We prefer not to enter that space where we're making any sort of judgment on anything, but rather just provide the information as we know it and provide all the poker players and enthusiasts the tools that they need to sort of make their own decision on, what games or properties or tournaments are best for them based on their own preferences.
For sure. I like that you said also that that's a common question. Again, all the questions that all of our Cards Chat listeners asked, it may just sound, and I try to choose also, I'm as many as I'm asking on their behalf, there's at least 2 or 3 times as many. So I like that you mentioned that a lot of people want to know that. So thanks for your candor in that answer. We'll do 2 more just because, we're running a little bit long. But again, thank you for your patience, John. Chica Benita says as follows, another one. I like this question a lot. As the #1 resource for live and online poker games across North America, do you have a plan or ambitions that take you beyond North America? And if so, would you like to elaborate on that?
So we do have a number of international customers around Central America, Europe, a bunch in Canada. We've started to kind of dip our toe into the Asian market and even Australian market. So yes, we are by no means focused on North America only. It just so happens to be our most crowded market or busiest, market. But we're very much interested in, taking on European customers, Asian, Australian, African.
Sure.
Our product, our table captain system is compatible across all currencies and all languages. So we're not limited to any sort of, geographic limitations. We work with properties right now in, let's see, India, Philippines, Cambodia, Naga World, who just ran a WPT event. This is our software. So we work with a lot of international properties.
That's really
and
cool.
hope to increase our global footprint, really.
I definitely didn't know that. And again, it's one thing to just go ahead and answer and say, it works across currencies and it works across. That's difficult. I will just say from my own experience, once upon a time, I had to mention it. Like there was a little note-taking app, very simple type of a thing. And just to add languages wasn't a simple thing. So to have your full software at full capacity working 100%, just like it does in English, in other languages, and other currencies, again, I got to say, more power to you. That's not an easy thing to accomplish always. Last question, John, from Great Young, another new question asker. I guess interesting, poignant way to end off here. How would you describe poker in only 3 words?
adrenaline, strategy, challenge. I think
Adrenaline.
those are the three words those are the three adjectives that excite me the most about poker. I love the challenge. I love the adrenaline that comes from making the right decisions and or outsmarting opponents. And I love the challenge. Did I already say challenge? I don't know. Those are the three words that come
The
to mind.
strategy.
Oh, right. I love the strategic, all the analytical thinking, and finding, taking limited pieces of information to try to sort of reverse engineer what I think my opponent has or what he or she thinks I have.
Mhm.
Yeah, those would be my three words to describe poker.
I love it. Well,
Yeah.
folks, I gotta thank all of you who sent in questions for Jon Friedberg. And again, a friendly reminder to all of you out there in the Cards Chat community, we'd love to see you submit your questions for our future podcast guests in the dedicated thread on the forums. Guys, please be sure to give us a good review on iTunes and spread the word via your social media channels if you like the show. Again, I want to just specifically say a personal note. I don't think you had done much, if any, media prior to this, Jon. So I very much personally appreciate it. I found it, completely enchanting, an amazing story. And thank you so much for your time. Before we let you go, is there anything else you'd like to share with the Cards Chat audience?
Really just an appreciation for everyone, and a thank you for using PokerAtlas. And if you're not familiar with PokerAtlas, check it out. And if if you see any properties that we're either missing or have inaccurate information on, by all means, let us know. We always want to make sure we have the best information available, but we don't always have access to that information. So we do our best. We're not perfect, but the more our user base helps inform us of any sort of inaccuracies, the better we become. And we're in it for the best, for the betterment of the entire industry. And whatever we can do to help or make our product better, let us know.
And the best way to let you know?
Really just sending us an email, either support@pokeratlas.com or updates@pokeratlas.com, or on the site itself. Anytime, for any listing or any piece of information, there should be a little button that says wrong information, or let us know. So we get a lot of feedback from users, and they become a very critical part of our business.
Perfect. Thanks again so much to Jon Friedberg. Thank you all for tuning in once again to another episode of the Cards Chat Podcast. I'm Robbie Straczynski. You can follow me on Twitter @CardPlayerLife. I wish you all a wonderful day. Cards Chat, the friendliest poker podcast in town from the world's #1 poker community.